how did you find your first users? And for every, SaaS founder I talk to, there's a huge difference between like user number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 10 or whatever, and how they're growing today. So I'd love to hear like, how'd you start and, where are you now?
Yeah, this is the best question and one of my favorite questions because I had this at the forefront of my mind anytime. So Browserless was like number 5, 10. But for Browserless, it was more easy to find the first users because the need was so apparent for myself. Well, as a developer, I know where developers hang out. I know where to go find those people. And so it was like GitHub issues, Stack Overflow, forums, like some kind of niche subreddits that were like high, I guess you could say high intent users.
You talked a lot about blogging and content as a way to just be out there, be discoverable by by developers. Have you tried to get in, AI search results? Have you experimented with that? Joel, welcome to Growth Stories. So happy to have you on the show. So Joel is the CEO and founder of Browserless, which is an amazing tool. I'd love to hear, just to start us off, what gap did you see that led you to start developing Browserless in the first place?
Ooh, thank you for having me first and foremost.
Yeah, welcome.
I appreciate it. Yeah, this is always a fun story to tell. This is definitely one of those like, when you're starting a business and you're thinking about what do I do, people always like commonly tell you like, hey, fix a problem that you've had in something,
I've
go
heard
solve
this.
a problem. Yeah, probably a few times, right? Go solve a problem that you think isn't fixed, needs to be fixed, or could be fixed better. And so Browserless definitely was born out of, I wanted to fix this problem better. And so it was, and you probably heard this too, it was a unique combination of timing, being at the right place at the right time. A new thing came out that wasn't well supported in different environments. And so that the confluence of all those things kind of, met at the same time and Browserless came out. So to kind of get a little more detailed with that, I was building like a wish list app for like birthdays and holidays or whatever. And I was like, hey, send me a list of what you want for your birthday or whatever. Everybody faces this at some point or another. And I was like, well, I don't want to just
My
do
wife
Amazon.
signed us up for something like this.
Yeah.
I think we have some.
So here, sorry, another tangent. There's a user of Browserless that is actually building the same exact product that I started Browserless from because like, this part wasn't fixed. So anyways, I was building this app and it was going fine. And then Target happened to be one of the vendor or retailers I wanted to support at the time. I was like, oh, it'd be great to have stuff from Target. But Target at the time was a single page application, which means you couldn't like get pictures or data off of a product page from Target without having a headless browser or a web browser, like do the JavaScript, load the images, get the data. So I was like, well, crap, I have to bring a whole browser into this. Wouldn't it be great if I could use this new library to do that? And that library just did not have any support anywhere that you could run like a hosted browser. So pivoted into that after doing some, diving into it. And that's the genesis of the company, to be honest, but lets you automate processes or things that aren't something that you want to do manually.
This is like a classic developer situation where you're like, I want to do this one thing. Oh, it's very simple, but there's this massive mountain of problem in front of me. And then that's actually the useful, generalized business case is like, how do we get data from sites that aren't regular websites? They're actually like single page applications. I don't even know what you have to do to solve that problem, but yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot. I learned a bunch of new stuff doing it, new technologies, like learned Docker at the time. This was back in 2017, just for folks to be well aware of where we were historically. But
yeah. And I wish Browserless existed in my life when I had to solve these similar kinds of problems. I remember, in a former life, I was doing development stuff and I was working for like agencies that help like large national airlines. And how do we get like credit card data from all these arcane websites and, pulling all this, and they would always change and they were definitely made to be used for humans. So you had to like get through a barrage of notifications to like get the actual data and then process it. I wish we had Browserless back then.
Yeah, me too. I wish I'd have been there with you and helped you out a little bit. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm sure I think my business, we are a customer. We use it in workflows, but I'm curious, like, when you started this, how did you find your first users? For every, SaaS founder I talk to, there's a huge difference between like user number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 10 or whatever, and how they're growing today. So I'd love to hear like, how'd you start and, where are you now?
Yeah. This is the best question and one of my favorite questions because I had this at the forefront of my mind anytime. So Browsers was like number 5, 10. I can't remember, like the thing I tried to start and just never could get enough revenue to like do it, as a full-time thing. But for Browserless, it was more easy to find the first users because the need was so apparent for myself. And I was like, well, as a developer, I know where developers hang out. I know where to go find those people. And so it was like GitHub issues, Stack Overflow, forums, like some kind of niche subreddits that weren't, that were like high, I guess you could say high intent users.
Did you
Like,
promote it in GitHub issues? Like, hey,
yeah,
it's a
I remember
PR.
the very first thing I did was Puppeteer is the name of the library. That's like the most common thing you would use to automate a browser.
Yeah.
I went to Puppeteer. I sorted issues by most comments or most reactions. I can't remember. I think it was probably most comments. And it was, how do I get this to run on VPS? And I was like, oh, this is like, I'm selling lemonade and I found a construction site of construction workers that are tired and thirsty. Like, this is exactly where I needed to be. And so I commented, on that issue. And this is also another thing is like, you find yourself in these gray areas of like, you're not supposed to self-promote, but if you're like answering a question and get to the point with how to do a fix it or whatever, but then you can also like, there's like that sliver of like, you can kind of pitch something right at the very end if you want. Like, oh, if you don't want to do all of that or worry about that, then just go use this thing. And so that's what I did. That was the first issue. I got my first paid user from that thread. And then it was just kind of like once a week going through issues on GitHub, going through issues on Stack Overflow was a big one. Like they've kind of tightened down this a little bit since then, but yeah, just going through Stack Overflow and finding people with similar problems to kind of help shed some light on.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Very logical. Just going where the party already is. When you describe that, I'm just imagining that the responses are something like, "Well, you can go to Mordor, or you got Browserless." Right?
Yeah, you could go under the mine, or you could just
Yeah.
take the eagle. Like, why don't they just write eagles? This is the eagle.
Yeah. Love it. Okay, cool. So that's how you got your first, few users, and then is that still the major strategy, or have you added on other channels?
Yeah, it's funny because, as you go through these like the life cycle of running a business, like you start off with more of like the hustly kind of things where you're going on the street, you're asking people, you're in the mix of everything. And then it transitions from like, okay, well, that's not scalable. I need to hire people. I need to do other things besides just be ever present and bugging people about it. And really like spoiler, like maybe not a spoiler, but like, content, is a big one there. So blogged a lot about stuff like, and then, took that content from blogging and posted on, again, Reddit, Hacker News, just like try to get as much mile out of every piece of long tail content you can. And just like get multiple wins from that. And so a lot of it was blogging. And then we still do a lot of blogging. Like that seems to be the biggest, especially it really depends on your audience, I guess. But for developers in particular, it's blogging, newsletters, conferences sometimes too, speaking events.
It's a notoriously difficult area to break into to be profitable in developer tools. And I don't know why that is, but part of me thinks, as a former developer, that there's some kind of cultural thing that we shouldn't be paying for tools somehow. Like everything should be open, free, and exist already and cost nothing. And that's hard. That's a hard belief to.
Yeah.
Have you found that to be the case, or am I off there, or how do you see it?
No, you're definitely onto something there. It is a tough space to be in. It really is. Like, because not only are you, it's like, I don't know, I'm trying to give like a good metaphor to compare it to, but like, not only can these people, they can absolutely do it themselves. Like, that's the biggest problem is people get.
Problem. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I'll just go do this myself. And it's like, great. Well, there's all these other things, 6 months, a year later, you're going to run into, I'm sorry that you're going to run into those, but as an oracle now for you, like, I'm going to tell you're going to run into these problems.
Yeah.
But then also, I think developers in particular, just like once they know how something works and how, it's architected, it immediately just skydives down in value for them. Like, oh, it's just that. Okay, let me go do that.
It's just that. Well, yeah. Yeah.
But it's like, well, yeah, it's just
That's
that
not
from
magic.
what I told you. Yeah, but it is in a sense. It's like, well, it's not magic. It's like it's managed complexity that looks like magic.
Yeah.
And
You've
one
just
problem
solved
is easy.
every basic edge case for 10 years. That's all it is.
Yeah, that's it. That's everything. It's like, I could build Twitter in a weekend. It's like, okay, yeah, you could, but like to scale it, to, do all the things that they have to do. It's like, no, it's, yeah. It's
I don't even
easy to
think
get
that's a
out.
developer thing. That's a human being, and
Yeah.
it definitely like, I don't know the right I'm struggling for the right word as a marketer because in marketing we use these terms like quality of the lead, which makes it sound
Mhm.
like these human beings have less quality because they don't think they should pay us, which is a terrible thing. But it's like there's certain beliefs that I remember, in engineering teams that were not programmers, like hardware engineering teams. It's the same thing. It's like,
Mm.
oh, this $250 million tool, but it's just that principle. Like we're all physicists, we could do that. It's like,
Yep.
well,
Yep.
let's buy it though.
100%. Well,
Let's not try to do that. Let's focus on the core business problem. And I think that's kind of a funny thing about programming is so general you can lose sight of what is like core to the business. Like, what are we supposed to be good at?
yeah, exactly. You could be off rebuilding wheels, but you're not selling cars. So like, why are you building wheels?
Mhm.
Like, why? But yeah, I mean, yeah, buy versus build problem all over again. And like, to be honest, like a lot of people sometimes just don't need us. That's fine. Like, I get it. Like, maybe you have in-house expertise and that is your domain and it is so core to your product or business that you don't need us. Fine. Great. Like, we
Mhm.
understand that. Yeah, that makes total sense. But like, small, medium-sized business, and even some enterprises, like really, they want to utilize it, but they don't want to invest the resources to like maintain it, security stuff going over time, all those things. And so
Mhm.
that I get too. It's like that's really
Yeah.
annoying and burdensome.
Yeah. Yeah. As a business owner, I want to build nothing. This is absolute minimum.
A money printer is what I
So,
want.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious. Are you tired of talking about AI yet?
It's yeah, I'm thinking about spinning up a little cluster just to talk about AI and it's in and of itself. But yeah, AI,
Yeah.
for all that
Has it
we talk
actually
about it.
appreciably changed your process or I mean, I see lots of different, some people, of course, they're already selling AI stuff. Like you just need to vibe code your way out of every problem. And then there's big studies that show, in organizations, all it does is push it down the line to someone to debug your soup. That's just
Yep.
very difficult to understand. So it doesn't really help enterprises that much yet. And I don't know. I'm just curious to talk to you about that. Like, have you seen it impact your teams or your workflow
Yes,
and how?
100%.
Yeah.
It was difficult at first because just like you're saying, if you're too open-ended and what prompts you give to like, hey, I need you to go do this thing and this repos, and it will, and it thinks it will, but when you actually go like read through line by line what it does, it's like, well, no, it looks and it feels like you did, but it didn't. The whole,
Mhm.
getting lost in the woods kind of problem with it. But so I found, for myself personally, it's like if you give a really good fence around, I need you to do these explicit things in these explicit files in this way, then it really does work and it's really amazing. Or my favorite thing to give it is, hey, we have this thing over here that's written in this language or whatever, and I need it to be in this language. Can you translate it from one to the other? And then it really excels at that. Like the more
Mhm.
scope you can give, the better. I think that's what everybody says too. So sorry, sorry again, this is nothing new or interesting, but like really
No,
scoping it well
yeah.
is important. And there was another like case or something I read about it where it's like, oh, 90% of code is written by AI. But then there was like all this context afterwards. It was like, but after a lot of deliberation by, executives on how to utilize it properly, understand how to prompt it. I was like, that's what nobody talks about is like, they just see the
Mhm.
90% and it's like, oh, it's just doing it. It's like, no, they thought about this a lot. They put a lot of time and effort into how to utilize it well. And it wasn't just some black box that they just let people go nuts on. It was like very scoped in how they approached it. So in that, I find it to be really useful,
Mhm.
100%. But will it replace the need to have like software engineers? I don't think not initially. I think we're still several years out from that. Like you really need somebody that
Yeah.
knows how the car runs before you can just have a machine auto build cars. Like they really need to know like, oh yeah, I told you to build a wheel, but there's no rubber on this wheel. This is going to cause havoc on the roads. Like some intuition and like history is going to be necessary for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I can see that. And also just from a business point of view, well, one thought that hits me is we're all going to have the tool. It's not an advantage.
Yeah, if
It's
everybody's
like
got it, yeah,
everyone
yeah,
just goes 10 miles an hour faster.
yeah.
Now what?
All the
So,
boats are lifted the same height or yeah, exactly. Yeah.
yeah. So you still need a solid solution, product, distribution, all these fundamentals that are not super sexy to talk about, like understanding how to communicate the value to the people that you need to understand it. Well, okay, so that's interesting. And you talked a lot about blogging and content as a way to just be out there, be discoverable by
Mhm.
by developers. Have you tried to get in, AI search results? Have you experimented with that?
Yeah, we have a project that's it's still in its infancy where we've got this wealth of like scripts people have run, automations they've tried to do, and we have this giant repo. And so there's all this data that we've got. I don't want to say a lake, but it's kind of a data lake of like, here's what's possible in the spectrum of things. Like, can we have
Yeah.
AI look at those, iterate over that, check out what's new and novel and interesting, and yeah, generate content from it. And we're not quite at the point where we've hit pay dirt with it yet, but like there's some pretty good early signs that like, oh yeah, this is actually kind of interesting and cool to like dog food AI on itself and just let it, run over scripts or whatever it is. So yeah, that's pretty new. And I haven't heard a lot of other folks doing that just yet, but I'm sure somebody is out there. That's one of the newer things I'm kind of looking forward to seeing, when we get issues, when we get support, can we, obviously solve those problems, but also can we maybe like get something else out of it too? Like anytime where we can get 2 wins from one effort, I'm for it. Like that's just a no brainer. So this definitely kind of falls
What
into that bucket.
I'm like, perhaps I'm lagging in caffeine. What are the 2 wins?
I mean, so from the support side, it's like, maybe we solve their problem, convert a customer, but we
Yeah.
can take the effort into doing that, put it into this scripts repo that we've got, and then we now have like content. Obviously, once we've like anonymized it,
Ah, I see.
like
Yeah.
removed
So
it.
it's also generating content. I see.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then
Yeah.
and other organizations have had that for sure. Like I've worked in companies that, there's an issue in support, you solve it, but then you also make a document about it or update docs someplace so it doesn't happen
Yeah.
again. Like that's, from one effort, you get two things kind of a mentality.
Yeah. If marketing was a sport, that would be it. This is like, how much can you repurpose? How
Right.
many ways can you communicate good things that just happened? That's what you're.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and we're bootstrapped. There's no VC behind us. So it's like we think a lot about investments into things because, it's
Yeah.
every dollar counts. And so anytime where we can get multi-use out of something, we're absolutely going to leverage that to our advantage. So, and it's also where all these buzzwords now make sense is like as a developer, I was like, I always heard like executives talk about synergy and 1 + 1 = 3. I'm like,
Yeah.
whatever, dude. Like, come on, man. Like, that's
What do
just so,
you-
like, I get it now. Like, I get it. It makes
Yeah.
sense to me now.
Okay. Okay. Tell it. All right. So yeah, how can you translate for your younger developer self? How does 1 + 1 = 3? What is that?
Yeah. So as a developer, I would say like, if you can make an investment into one system or one new process that nets several new products or improvements elsewhere, like let's say you update the CI on a project and then now 2 or 3 other projects that depend on that get a boost in like reliability or whatever, like that's good. That's good synergy, right? Or, like good one-time investment where you get multiple returns on it. Synergy is almost the opposite. It's like because of these two efforts going together at the same time, now we get this like overwhelming abundance of output either in, new business, MRR, whatever it is, synergy or good timing around, objectives at the same time. That's my
Yeah,
really poor way of saying it.
that makes sense. Yeah, to me, I just hear leverage. It's like,
Leverage. Yeah.
where do we have leverage?
Yeah.
That's another buzzword, but it's true. Some things like you're just kind of shoveling the dirt. There's
I mean,
nothing's
yeah, at a
changing.
basic level, you got to dig trenches, but can the trench serve conduit and plumbing? Awesome. Then you don't have to do untrench. You don't have to do two.
Yeah,
So boom.
yeah. Oh man, you saved my metaphor. Yes,
Sorry. I was with you
that's
on
good.
that.
That was good.
But yeah.
That was good. Yeah. And okay, so and I'm curious, is there a way, like as a founder, how do you prioritize what to work on? I talk to a lot of founders and I've coached founders at an earlier stage. And I feel like one of the obvious things that separates people that made something that you could talk about is they just didn't quit. They like that was they were going to do that thing and they
Yep.
kept doing it, even with all the other excitement that comes along. But apart from that, like now that you're at this point where you have, amazing business, it solves a real problem. We actually might somebody on my team signed up for it. Like we use it too, which I found out before the call. Yeah. So how do you decide where to go now? You have the basic component. What are you doing how do you manage that? Like prioritizing what to work on?
Yeah. It's tricky, especially in the age of AI. Like AI really wants people like, oh, we should pivot into this or pivot into that or, make investments into this thing. And, like, obviously you still need to have discipline to a certain degree and conviction in what you're doing and stay true to that conviction. Like, again, we started 8 years ago, 7, 8 years ago. And it's like, there's still some fundamental problems that exist there that I fundamentally want to solve as an end user of these services, you know? So like staying true to the ethos of why you did this thing. And especially if you get, you know, if you're getting started, like another thing I heard a lot and it rang true for me is like, you almost have to be just ignorant enough not to know what you're getting yourself into just so that you do it, you know, because so many people will know, like once you get a little seasoned, this is like, I could do that, but like thinking like, oh, well, that's going to suck. That's going to suck. Yeah. You just see nothing but downside. I was like, well, nah, I'm going to not do that. But at a certain point, you kind of just, you know, you got to do it live. You got to ship it to production. You got to, you know, make the leap. And so whatever that conviction was, like harness that, you know, you carry it with you like a safety blanket, wear it at night, cry into it, but like hold on to it because that really is like your, you know, North Star in a way, quote unquote, to keep moving forward.
Yeah, I love that. Well, as we wrap up, what would be your like number one advice be to other bootstrap SaaS founders like yourself, especially right now where it seems like maybe you could make anything, but it's still hard? What advice would you give them?
I mean, if you're just on the point of like, what do I build? What do I do? Like there comes a time, Rick Rubin's also a really good inspiration. He's a music producer, but like he talks about creativity and where to get like creativity and like source something to like make something at some point will stick in your mind and you can't get rid of it. You know, for me, it was Browserless. For you, it could be, you know, your database, you know, whatever it is, a faster way to deliver burritos that you can't stop thinking about. Like, man, what happens if we had this? What would that? There's a reason that the universe injected that into your mind and it's stuck and you can't get rid of it. And that's usually a really good signal to go off of is if you have that level of conviction where you go to sleep thinking about it, you wake up thinking about it, there it is. Now you've just got to figure out the other parts. Like, where are those people that are going to buy it? How are you going to, you know, go about finding it? But yeah, I mean, if you fundamentally believe something and you think it'll have an imperatively good thing, you know, in the global spectrum, like go for it, man. Like you only got one life to live. Might as well do something, you know? So yeah, hit it.
That's right. Oh, thanks so much, Joel. It's a great conversation.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on again.